I have a presentation planned. Welcome to Superhero School, my friends. Uh, and I do a podcast called The Truth, Beauty, and Freedom and Love Show, which is based on the movie Moulin Rouge and the whole idea of the Bohemian Revolution at the turn of the century, and this idea that art can change the world. And so there's truth to art, and in video games are a very specific way by which you tell a story. And I was always motivated by playing games because I always wanted to know what would happen next in the story, like games like Mass Effect or like Halo, or let me think, even like Zelda and stuff, right? These all are games that have stories that get further unlocked the more that you go along them. So I was looking into game, right? I like those games too. So I grew up with those games, and I didn't even finish my story with Zero Suit Samus. So I wore this outfit. I love wearing this on the bikes that I drive with hubby, and we went to, where were we? Went to go pick up like magical equipment, like incense and candles and stuff. And the guy at the store was like, "Oh, are you Spider-Man?" I'm like, "This is not even the right colors for me to be Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. Like, I guess maybe, no, I'm not even anything close to anything in the Spider-Man universe, although I do love that universe, and that's a separate story and game. However, so today is going to be about game theory. I'm going to talk about the cosmic game of life, because if you guys have ever come to our DJ sets, I love to refer to you guys as like empowering yourselves as a character in this cosmic game of life. And I do astrology in the daytime. This presentation was actually supposed to take place like 5 hours ago, but I've been having a hard time catching up with time ever since. Oh my goodness, I've been having a hard time catching up with time ever since daylight savings. And it's so crazy, daylight savings, because I remember working in an office back in the day. Hold on, let me I just put on like lip gloss, and it's so funny. When I was little, because I'm half South African, I used to get teased because of my big lips. And now look, people have to get Botox to get my lips. So it's kind of funny, things I got made fun of as a kid. Hey, Voice of Win. And Andra, thank you for the follow. What is my ancestry? It's so interesting you say native, because I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and there's a large native population there, and I was actually friends with quite a few girls who were native. But I myself, my dad is South African, and my mother's Filipino, but my dad is also like mixed, right? Colored. So my granny is like Dutch, like Netherlands, and if we go way up the chain, my great-great-great-grandfather was an English ship captain. So it's like this interesting stuff. Temporal distortions are so time-consuming. Oh, well said, Voice of One, my brother from another universe. So, but I feel a very strong connection to this land in Canada, even though I myself, we're all native to the earth, right, on a level, right, being earthlings of the planet. And if I think of I like my model. So I'm going to let you guys in on my personal model of reality. And if anything that I'm saying vibes with you, you can take it to help illustrate your own. If it doesn't, you can leave it right there because it's not meant for you, right? That's the way I kind of look at things. Even if you go through movies or comic books or songs, like you'll find that sometimes there's going to be a line or a lyric that like, you're like, wait a minute, like, you hear something more to that message, and that's definitely made for you. Oh my goodness, thank you, Bongo Man. I think there are some beautiful mixes out there in the world. Hey, Cody. Cody, you have a very special name to me, because I had a very good friend of mine named Cody growing up, who's since passed. Rest in power, Cody. He died in 2001 when I was 16. So it's interesting, right? I'm turning 40 in a few weeks, actually. And so I've taken a really hard look at all of like my old videos that I've done, all the old content I've done, all the comic books I've been reading, you guys. And I was like, okay, this needs to be organized, which I have done. And we do have something of like a premium membership. So you can subscribe here as well, because I've realized that There's quite a few pieces of content that TikTok has restricted. Not yet. I gotta get out of the city first. That's coming very soon. So all in good time, right? Like who knows? Like maybe it'll happen sooner than anticipated. It's all divine timing these days. There's so much synchronicity going on these days. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. 1986 here. Hey, oh Cody, amazing. I'm 1985, and I'm originally Winnipeg, and now Toronto. You know, Toronto's changed a lot. That's not the topic of this today's conversation. I took a bunch of video clips the other day. I'm gonna be like on the street, April O'Neil. No, I'm very married. I've been married for 10 years now. So I welcome you guys to be open to keeping sacred play in all of your relationships in your life, so that you never have to really grow old, right? I love it when people are like, oh, for cosplay, like, oh, you're too, like, what do you think, too old? Who's too old for anything? And who said? Where does authority come from? So with that, I'm going to get into Samus's background, because her inspiration is kind of cool. So I'm going to, if you're not familiar with Samus Aran, my dad lived in Toronto. He had a nice place. Oh, I love Cabbage Town. Yeah, I love all the older, cool spots in Toronto. I don't like all the gentrification that has been happening so far so much. But then maybe that's just my age showing, potentially. All right, so let me let you into Miss Samus Aran. I love this quote, the Metroid Prime intro. In the vast universe, the history of humanity is but the history of humanity is but a bright flash of light from a lone star. The life of a single person should be lost in space and time. But among the stars, there is one light that burns brighter than all others, the light of Samus Aran. Her battles extend beyond her life and etch themselves into history. Nice entry. Oh my gosh, there's like an actual, I'm not going to play that right yet. So let's see here. Samusu Aran is an intergalactic bounty hunter and the main protagonist of the Metroid series, the daughter of Rodney. So there's some stuff here about like the X parasites and other things in Metroid, which is kind of cool. So I personally have not I have not played Metroid other than on the emulator. Oh my goodness. Music Spot. Nice name. Yes. Yeah, he's my husband actually. As I said, we got married. We got I used to love walking downtown Toronto. Yes. But you know what? As I said, you guys, sacred play in all your relationships keeps everything wonderfully fresh. Also, it was a different thing when we got married. So we got married in Mexico, in Cozumel, in 2015. And it was amazing. It was in February. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary in February. And I loved it. We got married on the beach in the sun. It was amazing. So I do say that, like, it's a matter of relationships in your life. I feel like it's about realizing the roles they play in your larger cosmic game, right? Your own personal game is the main player in your universe, right? And this beautiful game, this beautiful reality has been rendered out specifically for you. And so it's going to have very unique things that are specific to you, because when you have your HUD, like your dashboard, that's your dashboard. Like, even though we're all playing the same game, what I'm going to see, like my Cortana in Halo, my waypoints are going to be my waypoints that I see. You may see some of the same waypoints, but maybe not. So I'm dressed as Samus to talk about game theory, which is actually mathematics. So let's talk about it. Have you guys seen the movie A Beautiful Mind? Because that is, oh good, let me just check my test. Oh my gosh. Last time I did this whole live on YouTube and there was no sound on it, which was, so I just like looked at it like, oh my gosh, I didn't even do a sound check. I usually do. All right, playing it risky. Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a presentation, but it's primarily text. There's not a lot of diagrams this time. So next time for Superhero School, if you join, I will have maybe some visuals to show you guys stuff to dealing with timelines. I think we're going to talk about like time and space and what do we mean by third, fourth, fifth dimensions. It's not just new age hokey stuff. It's a real thing. Okay, so the cosmic game of life, a look at modeling reality through the lens of a grand cosmic game. Okay, so game theory. What is it? It's not just playing video games or RPG games or like Scrabble. Game theory is one of the most fascinating branches of mathematics with tons of applications in fields ranging from the social sciences to biological sciences. So game theory, you may know game theory if you watched the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, aka Maximus from Gladiator. There's something there. Let's bookmark it. Game theory, however, is a fairly modern branch of mathematics, originally developed by the Hungarian-born American mathematician John von Neumann and the German-born American economist Oscar Morgenstern to solve problems in economics. So the Nobel Prize one was an economics one. Funny thing in university, how economics is an arts, it's not a science. Dun-dun-dun. Also bookmark that. It essentially is the study of strategy, okay? Looking at how interacting choices by individuals produce outcomes based on the individual's preferences, which may lead to outcomes not intended by any of the individuals. So it's this level of determining outcomes of a game based on player motivations and behaviors. So game theory in the form known to economists, social scientists, and biologists was given its first general mathematical formulation by John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern in 1944. Now, despite the fact that game theory has been rendered mathematically and logically systemic only since 1944, game theoretic insights can be found among commentators going back to ancient times, such as Socrates. Bomb chicka wow wow, what is the secret? You know what it is? Inner light, inner beauty, my friends. When you start to actually like love yourself, there's a whole big transformation thing that happens, I think. That's why I had a girlfriend of mine from high school. I went to an all-girls Catholic school named called St. Mary's Academy in Winnipeg, if you're familiar. Look at the moon there, fitting there. And Eliana Dell'Acqua, she's very Italian, very loud. And she was like, Rachel, have you been drinking from the fountain of youth for the last 10 years? Like, why do you look younger now than in high school? I'm like, I was way more stressed out in high school. I was like straight A student. I took tri-sci. I was like studying nerdy, did drama, was on the basketball team, I was always just like stressed out. I feel like. So when you actually like learn to actually like realize like education and me learning about game theory, my dad, fun fact, my dad actually has a master's in mathematics. He is one of the first professors in computer science. So I grew up a lot of like talking to my dad about things like how a computer can't draw a perfect circle. It does it by like shading, which is why when you look at AI rendering programs, it's more about the way they build things is not necessarily the way that someone would draw it. Anyways, that's a side note. Let's get into the game. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a presentation, and this presentation will be available with the video afterwards if you want to take a look at it. My first computer was a Tandy. Oh, love that voice woman. Thank you. I need to try this out. Yeah, Bomb Chicka Wow, you're beautiful. Just think that, you know, and like mirror work. We say so many things that are negative to ourselves in our own heads, and that has to go somewhere, right? Abracadabra, I create as I speak, and that involves, like, that's inner dialogue too, right? And, you know, even dialogue that, like, other people give to you and you, like, rerun in your head, get rid of that. Like, people who tell you stuff that are, like, you know isn't true and you take on, like, let it go. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to define our terms in the context of game theory here. So, as Samus Aran, welcome, my friends, to the cosmic game. You are playing as you, whatever that you want that to be, right? And our whole discovery of life, you can spend a whole lifetime just discovering who you are. Oh no, not yet. Not yet. We're working on that. Soon, soon. But see, I had to organize all of it because all of it has been so all over the place for me. I've only very recently come out of the corporate world. I used to work for KPMG downtown, guys, 33 Bay Street. Um, I was a global relationship manager. So I managed 137 countries across this country. I got to talk to across this country. I got to talk. You might as well have different countries in Canada if you think about it sometimes. But regardless, I've realized there's so much more that we have in common with each other as earthlings on this planet, and we should have a lot more fun with it, you know? And I've realized, like, through my own personal inner work and psychedelic journeys with my husband, oh yeah, like I've definitely done my time, done my time in the game of corporate, because that's what I've realized. All of these are like mini games, if you think about it. I would prefer that trade working on some regard, like a skill. Like I've been learning to draw, like teach myself how to draw again, and like that's been helpful in like re-patterning myself, right? Because when you draw, you realize, like, as let's say you draw a face and you like draw the nose, you're like, okay, this looks wrong, but why does that look wrong? It looks wrong because it's mathematical, right? Because there's like symmetry to features, and that's why we find like certain things beautiful. But then again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? What I find beautiful isn't necessarily what you will find beautiful, but there's a beauty in us having a conversation about why that is. Hey Murray, welcome. It took me 4 years to figure out that we were all nuts too. And you know what? Yeah, I'm turning 40 as well. And like, that's what you realize. Like, no one really knows what's going on. We're all just doing our best, right? And so I'm just presenting to you guys. I never knew. So to me, when I had my first breakthrough experience, let's call it that. I don't know how much TikTok will restrict me for this, or YouTube will. But regardless, peeking behind the veil, however way you've done that, any of you guys have seen that, any of you guys have done that, or had an inkling that there's something else going on in this reality. Oh yeah. I looked at it as like, I've loved video games ever since I was a kid. Because my father was a computer science professor, he was my best teacher, my best educator, right? So he used to actually create games for myself and my sister to teach us math. Like he made us this game on like climbing a mountain, doing mathematical equations, and every time you got one wrong, this big mudslide would come and like take you down. So anyways, like to me, how I learned was through games. So because I was very motivated by that. Even when I was in school, I was like valedictorian from grade 1 to grade 8, and I was honor roll, straight A student, all that kind of stuff. And I looked at all of it was a game, right? I was always like, there was these other guys in my class who were like, it was friendly competition. They were always trying to beat me in grades, but I was never trying to compete with anyone else. I was always competing against myself. I was always stressing myself out. I needed to be perfect. I think all my exams in grade 7 and grade 8, I had like 100%, which is, I mean, I burnt myself out if I really think about it. When I left Winnipeg and came here, I became a personal trainer, and I like almost like put that to the side, right? Mega woman. That's a good, I like that too, Oliver. I always want to call you Olivier, like add some extra stuff to it for some reason. But no, I'm Samus Aran, I'll call her one of the first ladies of video games. I think Chun-Li may beat her, or Pac-Woman, perhaps. I think Voice of One brought that out. Was like, Pac-Woman is probably the first woman of video games. Okay, fine. Let's call Samus Aran the first lady of video games. Chun-Li, I think, is the first, like, fighter. I'm good. How are you? I put in over 100 hours of Zelda. Oh, The Witcher. Oh my gosh. Cody, you should meet my sister. My little sister. She loves The Witcher. Oh my gosh. Hey, Black Superman. Hey, welcome. And thank you for that. So we're going over game theory. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I have a presentation. It's think of this as like superhero school. Usually I read you guys comic books, but I choose my comic books very specifically. I like to choose things that deal with like time travel or like different universes interacting with each other, because within fiction, within the fantastic, lies truth, right? And things like liberty or freedom or, standing up for yourself and like strength, that is not easily talked about in like a PowerPoint presentation, which ironically I have right now. But when you read a story, when you're immersed in a video game, you get to be that player. Like, I love being Master Chief. Like, for example, Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a beautifully designed game because Commander Shepard, who ironically enough I feel like my husband looks like, but Commander Shepard, you can play as a male or a female. But I always choose to play Commander Shepard as a guy because I want to play that story as a guy, right? But it'll be a different story playing it as a female. And I think that's a nice way of looking at this reality without us getting caught up about these menial tags of things and race and gender and all this other stuff. It's really like, what is your character? That's always has been what is most important to me with anyone in my life. And that's how I've kind of viewed things. It's like, in this cosmic game of life, there are going to be individuals like, Zelda, right? Where you have that little shop where you have to buy all your potions and your gear and stuff before you go on your quest. It's thinking about that in like a higher symbolic kind of context. So I have a PowerPoint presentation about the cosmic game of life because we're talking about game theory. And game theory is actually mathematical in nature, right? If you guys have watched the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, it's about, oh my gosh, John Nash, I believe is his name. He's the mathematician that's about, and it's about his main findings have been about game theory. And game theory, for me, I always thought of it as like, oh, it's about like how you would construct a game. And yes, that's true, but there's more to it in terms of strategy. And Salt Farkas, thank you for the ice cream. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's get down to our nerdy selves, shall we? The definition of a game. Oh, I missed your comment. Wait, so let me just go back to that. Oh my gosh. Pauline was the girl Mario rescued in DK, but Miss Pac-Man was the first playable character. Ah, yes. Pauline? You mean like Miss Toadstool? You mean like in the first Nintendo game? Because that's the thing. She becomes Princess Peach, but isn't she Princess Toadstool? Who's Pauline? Is she the same girl, or am I thinking of someone else? Or is Pauline also Mrs. Pac-Man's other name? Okay. The definition of a game for game theory purposes, if we're looking at this from a mathematical perspective, which the whole world is mathematical, geometry. It just means, like, just because you don't know formulas doesn't mean you don't know math. So game theory is the study of games. Games, in the mathematical sense, are defined as strategic situations in which there are multiple participants. So furthermore, the outcome of the decision any individual makes is dependent on the decision, that individual's decision, and the decisions made by all of the other participants. Made in the 80s too, Voice of One. There's something about that. Like, I was 1985, so I always look at other things that were created in the same like time frame as you to get a sense of the same energetic aspects that are at hand that came into form at the same time as you, right? Like, you are a piece of art, and so think of all the other works of art that came into form at the same time as you, and so you're like, oh, there's clues there, there's energetic breadcrumbs about my cosmic game that can help me in my like path, right? I mean, that's what I think. Okay, so in terms of the game, in this context, a game from this perspective cannot be played with one player. You need other players for this game to work. It's like hide and go seek, right? You can't play hide and go seek by yourself because, like, who are you hiding from? Well, I mean, I guess you could play it with yourself cosmically, hiding from yourself. But yes, so for example, Sudoku or like Solitaire, these are not games in this frame of reference of context, right? Because how you solve the puzzle is not affected by anybody else's decision. So that's the uniqueness of game theory and why it plays so well in this reality, as we are co-creating this game together, right? We have our own personal universe, right? Our own personal cosmos, but we also interact with others. And so in astrology, of course, that's synastry and how those impact each other. And in game theory, it's, how, is this a competitive game or is it versus, right? Or is this collaborative? Like when I play Marvel Rivals, I do not playing against anybody. I accidentally put myself into a versus game and I was playing as Black Widow, and Black Widow is not very strong. I don't know how to play Black Widow very well in Rivals, as well as like, what is Black Widow gonna do against like Sue Storm or like Doctor Strange? Like, come on. Okay, so that's the definition of game. I'm gonna talk about the payoff matrix. So if we think about it, game theory is just about, how should I put it? If we think about being able to like bet on things like horses, right? You think that like, okay, I'm going to make a call because I think this horse will win, but then you have odds to kind of even that out. So things have been constructed so that the outcome can be fair, right? Now, we have something that's called the payoff matrix when we have a game of chicken. So let's say you have two cars. That's this game of chicken, very dangerous. Don't try this at home, friends. Maybe I should have, actually, I thought I had something to use as like an example in this game. Actually. Okay. So you have R2 and Grogu, okay? And they're playing a game of chicken. 1975, I grew up in the best time. We're I feel like mid-year baby. So Voice of When, I'm turning 40 and you're turning 50 this year. It's kind of like a weird, interesting synergistic timing of something. So let's pretend we're gonna do the payoff matrix with a game of chicken. We have Grogu playing against R2. Friendly game of chicken. So they're running against each other. So now we have two options here. Four options. Grogu could either swerve or go straight. And R2 can either swerve or go straight. My money's on R2. Russian roulette is there. I'm just showing, oh, thanks, I love you. Yeah, Zero Suit Samus. I'm thankful that you recognize it. And I'm talking about game theory as Zero Suit Samus. I'm hopeful that there's some extra meanings in there. Haha. Okay. This is not for you guys to bet on who wins this. This is just to show an example of the payoff matrix in game theory. As to like, for you, if you want to bet, I guess you would lay out all the different options of behavior, right? So Grogu can swerve or go straight. And R2 can swerve or go straight. Now, if both swerve, what we have is like, oh, they're both safe, right? And if they both, hold on here. They have like little faces, right? So if Grogu swerves and R2 goes straight, he's like, haha, I win this game, chicken. And Grogu's like, oh, womp womp. And if R2 swerves and Grogu goes straight, though one of them will be sad. And then if they both, yes, that would be the fourth one. So let me just show you what the matrix looks like quickly. My little diagram. So that's the payoff matrix. I mean, so you would make a matrix of all the different potential options, right? And I guess if they both swerve, they both win in that sense. So it's something to kind of think about. So hold that thought. Thanks, Appy Mac. But let's play this game. I have my money on R2 as well, Voice of When. I feel like Grogu wouldn't get the concept of the game of chicken. And and that would be where we are. Oh, thanks, Appy Mac. I guess you agree. Ooh, good question. But I mean, R2 is honestly, I love you, R2. can't, like, he's consistent, grounded, you know, like a Taurus never lets you down, hopefully. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Nash equilibrium. Now that you guys get game theory and you know the payoff matrix, we're going to talk about the Nash equilibrium. Look at us, mathematics. Who needs school? Okay, so a Nash equilibrium is when all players play the best response. Ooh. In the game of chicken above, as I showed you guys, both players going straight is not a Nash equilibrium because at least one player would have preferred to swerve. In the game of chicken, both players swerving is not a Nash equilibrium because at least one player would have preferred to go straight. See, do you get what I mean? It's like you're thinking about, this is actually psychological too. It's interesting how they talk about how it's math, but I'm like, you're trying to perceive what each player would actually do, right? R2's full capabilities are revealed in the droid's cartoon. Grogu has no chance. Grogu's untrained, but what if he becomes the first Mandalorian Jedi? Does that even work? Would not let him, I meant. Yeah, exactly. So I would say that you're right. Grogu would not want to go straight, I don't think. I don't think his preferred choice would be that, right? And R2, I think, is sassy and his preferred choice would be whatever has him win or something like that. I don't think he would want to hurt Grogu, though. So there's some other things going on in there. So the thing is, when one player swerves and one player goes straight, this is a Nash equilibrium. Because, what a crazy thing to understand, right? So both players swerving is not a Nash equilibrium, and both players going straight is not equilibrium. Both players are playing a best response. Okay, fair enough, because neither one of them dies, and but one of them wins, right? So, okay, sounds good. Oh, hi, old young man. Okay, so when one player swerves and one player goes straight, this is a Nash equilibrium because neither player can improve their outcome by changing their action. Another way of saying this is that both players are playing a best response. Barden Justic was the first Mando Jedi. Okay. Oh yes, I'm loving how we have you in the chat voice so fun. Just the intel. Jedi Jaina Solo was the second. There. Okay, that we need to get into the Darksaber as well. I feel like the show didn't really do it justice in terms of all of that and the lore, so more stuff to kind of look at. So now that we know, like, the Nash equilibrium, it's basically this idea of having the best response for all players on the board, right? Everybody wins in some regard, right? And it was good. I was just making sure I didn't miss anything. So the prisoner's dilemma is this story about how to have a favorable outcome for all players. So it's two prisoners are in.
It doesn't matter what your goal is, making a resume, writing an essay, or drafting a cover letter, Grammarly takes your writing game to the next level.
Skip this.
The prisoner's dilemma.
Put myself smaller
Two
here.
criminals are arrested for robbing a bank. Unfortunately, the police don't have enough evidence.
I'm gonna
to
put
convict
this
them of the bank
over
robbery,
here, and I'm gonna make it
only enough
louder,
to convict them of the
just for
lesser
class.
charge
Like,
of carrying a weapon.
pardon me while I get this
So,
set up.
the police put the two criminals into separate rooms to interrogate.
I should maybe I can act this out with
Separately,
Grogu and
two prisoners are each given the following options.
R2 again.
Option 1, if A
Maybe that's
testifies
possible,
against
but
B
while it plays,
and B remains silent,
let's try it.
A will
I'm
walk
gonna
free
put you here.
and B will
Okay.
get 10 years in prison. Option 2, the other way round. If B testifies and A remains silent, then B will walk free and A will get 10 years in prison.
Now,
Option 3,
let's see here.
if both prisoners betray each
The
other and
prisoner's
testify,
dilemma
they
is
each get
this,
6 years in
right?
prison.
you have
Option
two
4,
prisoners, and they basically
both prisoners
separate those
remain silent.
prisoners, and they
The
ask
police
them
won't have enough
questions. So let's
evidence,
bring back
so they'll
our
each get
friends
1 year in prison
and
for
illustrate
the
this
lesser
example.
charge. What do the prisoners do?
They're going to get out of prison anyways, regardless, because they have friends who can do that.
We can display
So
all of the outcomes in a payoff tree, and A will get 10 against B, and B remain into separate rooms to interrogate. Separately,
Okay, you have
the two
prisoner A,
are each
Grogu,
given
and
the
prisoner
following
B,
options.
and they're in cages.
Option
If
1, if
Grogu
A
testifies
against B,
R2
and
remains
B
silent, then A will walk free,
and B will get
Grogu
10
will walk
years in
free, and R2 will
Option
get
2,
10
the other
years
way
in
round.
prison.
If B
And if B testifies, and then
B will
he
walk
remains
free,
silent,
and A will get 10 years
then,
in prison.
basically the
Option 3,
if you tattle on each other, the other person will go away. Now, if they both betray each other, then each are going to get 6 years in prison. And if both remain silent, then they each get 1 in prison for the lesser charge. So the Nash equilibrium would state that the best one would be that for both of them to remain silent, because that way that would be the most favorable outcome for all. But like, you have to trust that the other person, and I feel like this game has been done before, where it's like, oh, we know they like revealed yourself to me to try to trick one of the other people to like give the other person away. So we can see from the prisoner's dilemma that often when individuals pursue their own self-interest, the outcome is worse than if they were to cooperate. So let's bring this back to Socrates and wrap it all up, because yes, we've been talking about game theory and the Nash equilibrium. Interestingly enough, oh my goodness, I forgot his name off the top of my head. A Beautiful Mind. I recommend we all watch that again. I don't even remember watching it the first time. Came out in 2001. It's, of course, a dramatization. John Nash. Yeah, so John Nash himself and his wife, Alicia, actually passed in 2015 in a car accident. And the interesting thing about John Nash is that he also suffered, apparently, from schizophrenia. So there's this interesting thing of dealing with like mental health alongside having genius levels awareness. And I think it's also just this perspective of like, if you're looking at things in certain codes and like your way of interfacing with the world is mathematical, it can be hard to interface with like just regular people. Like it's just one of those things that even in the education system, I think that we can look at how we educate a little differently. Like, I don't think everybody learns the same way, and how we test people's knowledge on things. We should maybe evolve it, but like, there's so much work to be done when it comes to that. And I hope that by learning game theory, and we make game theory and gamification when I was in corporate and working was primarily from the perspective of making people addicted to things like social media or like apps that we were developing, right? This idea of like, okay, like how can we ensure that people stay for as long as possible on this whatever product it is that we're creating, right? And so there's a level of like gamification and knowing this type of predictive way of creating matrices and understanding human behavior from this very logical mathematical perspective does have a lot of risk involved, right? Like, it led me down this whole pathway of like different let me see, is there anything more here? Oh yeah, Socrates. Let me read you about Socrates. So another example of game theory in action is attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, who fought at the Battle of Delium. He considered the problem facing an individual soldier in the front line, waiting for the enemy to attack. Yeah, the soldier postulates that if the defense is going to be a success, then his contribution towards that is unlikely to be essential, and there is a high chance that he'll be injured or killed. He also realizes that if the defense is going to fail, then his presence will have made no difference, and he's also likely to be injured or killed. Either way, his chance of death or injury is high, and so while his individual contribution will be low, he therefore decides that the best option is to run away and avoid the battle entirely. Oh, hi, Ivan Sophia. Thank you and welcome. Welcome to the live. And so this is the Socrates game theory, right? This idea of like a soldier in battle and like, is the best option, like the soldier's like, listen, why am I even fighting in this? I'm going to like die either way. Is it going to make a difference? Now, the problem here is when each soldier reasons in the same way. If everybody runs away, then the battle is definitely lost. The best decisions for each individual have led to the worst result for the group as a whole. It should be noted that one reason why the execution of deserters exists in so many armies is to reduce the profit gained from running away. If running away definitely leads to death, then the incentive is to stay and fight, right? So if you like make it like you can't leave, you have to stay, then of course you have to stay and fight. So there's some interesting stuff there when you think about like war games or strategy games. And if Socrates has already been postulating about these kinds of theories way back in ancient times, then more than likely there's some like stuff going on when it comes to the Matrix, right? The game that we're in, and like what I like to call like the hijack or like the virus that has infiltrated. And I think all of us at like a personal character level, in order to like get stronger in all of that, is to like know yourself, right? To really be aware of like where you need to practice and grow and evolve, and like where you can have your alignments and friendships and all that kind of stuff. And basically here, like an interesting extension of the prisoner's dilemma is that the same basic rules apply to problems with any number of participants and not just two in our problem. So you can take this whole concept of game theory and apply it to many things whenever you're having, I guess, dealing with like participants, or you're trying to create a strategy by which you're going forward with anything. So my other life, so I'm going to stop this presentation now on YouTube. And all the others, don't kill me, TikTok, for promoting my other places. So this will have some extra visuals on it, my little presentation, and but I illustrated it with you guys with my little friends here to show you my little game theory example. But it's really about like how you design things. And I've been working on my own RPG game, and I've finally have my Discord servers set up and all that. And I've played my first Dungeons and Dragons game, I think not last week, but the week before. I'm going to do my second game coming up. And it was so crazy to me how I felt rusty, right? The amount of voices that, like, the dungeon master was also playing a dwarf in the game, and his dwarf was like really good, like voice wise. I was like, and I was so enamored with all of it. I was just wanting to like sit and watch the game as opposed to like but I'm like, oh wait, I'm in it too. And then asking me questions like, Mayari, where did you come from? I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. So all of these things, I love RPG Dungeons and Dragons because you're literally playing a story, and the whole point of the game is the story, right? And what comes up in that game is all based on the individual characters and how those natural character arcs take place. And I think that's why, like with superhero movies, and Samus, I don't think has been done live action. Actually, there's a cosplayer. I'll find her on YouTube. She does this full mech suit Samus Aran thing in like the winter. Oh, hey, Pikachu. Speaking of team-ups, there's a cool video of Pikachu teaming up with Samus. Well, actually, Samus breaks Pikachu out, and then he helps her out in the end, too. So it's like a team-up back-to-back. So maybe we can figure out something there. But I love all those crossovers. And remember, Samus is Nintendo, and Pikachu's Nintendo, and they love copyright, taking things down for copyright. Even the emulators I have online, there's a few of them that it's harder to find the Nintendo games like Super Smash Brothers or Mario Kart. I had an N64 growing up. Drop what consoles you were gaming on. I'm going to drop